Hey there YouTube, Wrestling Optimus here, back with my action figure review of AEW Revolution from San Francisco, California. This was an awesome pay-per-view and we're gonna dive right into it in a second, but before we begin, make sure to like the video and tell me what you thought of Revolution in the comments down below. Now, let's take it over to the action figures. We kick things off with the 0 hour pre-show, where the Lucha Brothers and Mark Briscoe defeat the varsity athletes of Tony Nese, Josh Woods, and Arya Daivari, but at least they get an awesome intro from Mark Sterling. Also, Renee Paquette and RJ City actually made for a pretty fun pre-show, so check it out if you get the chance. But moving on to the main card, we start off with Ricky Starks vs Chris Jericho with the Jericho Appreciation Society banned from ringside. It's a really good match with a hot crowd, a theme for the rest of the night. Eventually, Sammy Guevara comes out, which doesn't make sense given the stipulation, but he is attacked by Action Andretti. This distracts the ref, which allows Jericho to hit Ricky in his injured ribs with his bat, but Starks manages to fight through the pain and blocks the Judas effect. He ends up winning with the Rochambeau, which continues Jericho's losing streak. I believe it's up to 4, including the loss to Claudio Castagnoli for the ROH World title. Next up is Jungle Boy Jack Perry vs Christian Cage in a Final Burial, which is basically just a combination of a casket and buried alive match. Christian plays the cowardly heel and runs away, leading the two men to brawl in the crowd. Excalibur reveals on commentary that Jungle Boy is actually defeated so far in 2023. Meanwhile, back in the match, the Perry family is unfortunately at ringside to witness as Christian gets the upper hand. Eventually, it's revealed that he planted steel chairs inside the casket. He uses them to daze Jack and puts him inside the casket, but can't get the lid closed. Jungle Boy grabs a shovel and puts Christian in the snare trap with it. Then finally, he gets up the courage to hit Christian with the concerto and rolls him into the casket for the win. There's also a really cool effect where the casket actually sinks down through a trapdoor afterwards. This was another good match with a feel-good ending and the crowd was still hot. The first championships of the evening are on the line next as the Elite defend their trios titles against the House of Black. Things keep breaking down throughout, allowing for tons of awesome action just like every Elite match. At one point towards the end, Kenny accidentally takes out Julia Hart, but brushes it off hilariously. Buddy Matthews breaks up the Meltzer driver, and House of Black hit the Dante's Inferno to become your new Trios champions. Don Callis tries to console the Elite afterwards. In the only women's action of the evening, Jamie Hayter defends her AEW Women's Championship in a triple threat match against Saraya and Ruby Soho. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Tony Storm are at ringside and keep interfering. But eventually, Jamie Hayter levels Saraya with a clothesline and rolls up Ruby Soho to retain her title. But she's attacked post-match by Tony Storm, who is fought off by Britt Baker before Ruby throws the heels out of the ring. But it's a swerve! She attacks Jamie and Britt. Tony smashes a camera as Ruby spray paints Jamie and Britt with an L. Then, to drive home the parallel with the NWO, commentary calls them the Outsiders. I hope you're ready for blood, because next is Jon Moxley vs Hangman Adam Page in a Texas death match, where there are no pins, only knockouts or submissions. Fittingly, Hangman comes out to Ghost Rider in the Sky by the Outlaws, then he attacks Moxley in the crowd during his entrance, and a dumbass fan gets clocked while trying to take a selfie. There's barbed wire everywhere, and predictably, Moxley gets busted open early. Hangman is put in a single-leg crab on the barbed wire, and then Mox is powerbombed onto barbed wire chairs. Page wraps some barbed wire around his waist and hits Moxley with a moonsault to the outside. Then, Moxley smashes Page's hand in between some bricks. After some more brawling, Mox reverses a buckshot lariat into the Death Rider, then follows it up with a stomp onto the bricks, but Adam Page won't stay down. Hangman eventually manages to hit the buckshot, then clotheslines Mox over the top rope and catches him with a chain, effectively hanging him. 'Cause he's the Hangman, get it? This forces Mox to tap out, and your winner is Hangman Adam Page. In our next title match, Samoa Joe defends his TNT Championship against Wardlow, with Powerhouse Hobbs watching on from a box seat. To put it simply, we got ourselves a good old-fashioned hoss fight, ladies and gentlemen. Someone check Vince McMahon's boner. There's tons of insanely athletic things that, as the old saying goes, guys this size shouldn't be able to do. But in the end, after Joe mocks Wardlow's Powerbomb Symphony, the War Dog chokes out Joe in his own Coquina Clutch to become a two-time TNT champion. Powerhouse Hobbs taunts Wardlow from his seat, and the two nearly come to blows at the press conference afterwards, but they'll officially take on each other for the title this Wednesday on Dynamite. Next up, in a fatal four-way for the tag team titles, the Guns defend against the Acclaimed, Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, and Orange Cassidy and Danhausen. Somehow, I have figures for virtually no one in this match. The Guns and Acclaimed are too new to have figures. I do have Billy Gunn to represent them though. I also have Orange Cassidy, but no Danhausen. However, his figure is coming out soon. As for Jay Lethal, he did have a Ring of Honor figure, but it was awful, and I never liked Jeff Jarrett, so I never got a figure for him. Anyway, over to the match. Orange Cassidy and Danhausen come out in matching black denim, while the Max Caster entrance rap implies that Jeff Jarrett has erectile dysfunction. During the match, Satnam Singh interferes and attacks the Guns for betraying his team. Danhausen goes to curse him, but Sanjay Dutt gets between them, so Danhausen breaks Sanjay's pencil. When Satnam tries to chokeslam the evil one, he gets nailed with an orange punch. Danhausen follows that up with a shot in the nuts, and Daddy Ass himself finishes off the Giant with a Famouser. After a ton of near falls, the Guns hit the 310 to Yuma on Danhausen to retain. Boo! I wanted the titles back on the Acclaimed. Afterwards, the Guns say this win proves that they're the best tag team in the world when FTR's music plays and the top guys make their way to the ring. Both teams brawl with FTR standing tall. Yes, if they're not going to be on the Acclaimed, let's finally put the belts back on FTR. And finally, in your main event, Bryan Danielson takes on MJF for the AEW World Championship in a 60-minute Iron Man match. MJF comes out to an elaborate WWE pay-per-view style entrance complete with an entire string section. Once the bell rings and the two finally lock up, MJF is forced to recoup on the outside, where he looks into a camera and says, "Oops, is this gonna cost me a star, Dave? Will I not win the Bryan Danielson Award?" Still, despite all the tough talk, Danielson scores the first fall with a Bo Psycho knee. But later on, MJF takes advantage of the rule that there's no rest period between falls in order to score immediate back-to-back roll-up pins after a low blow. However, that low blow counts as a DQ fall for Danielson, tying it up at 2. MJF does a huge elbow drop through a table on the outside, then does a tombstone pile driver through that same table, hurting his own knee. But he is able to roll Bryan into the ring and hit a heat seeker to go up 3-2. Later on, MJF screams at Danielson, "You're the best in the world? You fucking suck!" But despite the taunts, Danielson manages to get back on top and hits a diving headbutt which busts them both wide open. Then he hits another Bo Psycho knee and puts MJF in the label lock, forcing the tap out and tying things back up at 3. Both men catch a second wind at the 5-minute mark, although MJF is noticeably more gassed. He grabs a bottle of water and takes a drink while the crowd hilariously chants H2O, H2O. He hits another tombstone pile driver off the top rope, but again hurts his knee. Danielson locks in a single leg crab with 1 minute left, but can't get MJF to tap. Time runs out just as Max finally submits, but it's too late, and the tie means MJF retains. Or does he? The fans chant bullshit as Tony Schiavone gets word from the back. He comes to the ring and announces that, per Tony Khan, there will be no draw. We're going to sudden death. MJF, who was just receiving oxygen, can't believe it. Bryan does get Max in a heel hook, but he taps while holding the rope, making Danielson think that he's won. Max slips to the outside and grabs the oxygen tank, hitting Danielson behind the ref's back and then hiding it again. To add insult to injury, he puts a now half-conscious Bryan in the Lavelle lock, but Bryan won't pass out. He does, however, tap out after a few more seconds in the hold. MJF retains the Big Burberry belt in arguably the greatest match in AEW history. He then went on to give one of the most epic post-match press conferences I've ever seen, including showcasing his love for pickles. So definitely check that out. This whole pay-per-view was awesome and had a little bit of something for everybody. That's the kind of variety wrestling show that I personally enjoy. It moved quickly, the wrestling was top-notch, and it advanced a whole bunch of storylines. My only complaint would be that AEW still needs to incorporate their women's division a lot better. There was only one women's match, and we didn't even get to see the secondary women's title. Other than that though, like I said, it was great. Alright, that'll do it for AEW Revolution. If you liked the video, make sure to do all that normal YouTube stuff. Smash the like button, share with any wrestling or action figure fans you may know, subscribe to the channel, and spread the word. You can also talk to me over on Twitter at WrestlingOptimus, or see all my best figure photography over on Instagram at WrestlingOptimus. If you haven't seen my latest fig hunt at ZoloCon, you can check that out right here. But until next time, I've been Wrestling Optimus, and I'll catch you later.